All right, so on to question 6. Question 6 gave us this little graph. It's a piecewise function of some sort, and then we have to evaluate a bunch of statements. I'll just go through them one by one. The limit as x approaches a of f of x equals the limit as x approaches b of f of x. Well, as you can see, I wrote on top of this that it doesn't exist, and that's because the left-hand side limit and the right-hand side limit don't equal each other. So if this one doesn't exist, then obviously they can't equal each other. B was true because as we get closer to a from both sides, the y values get closer to 2. C is false because as we get closer to b, we approach different values, so this doesn't exist, which means it doesn't equal 1 either. And A does exist, but it's not continuous. So this is a beautiful illustration of what it means for the limit to exist. The two sides come together, even though the actual point doesn't equal the rest. Here's one for you. Notice how I created my own almost identical, which is what you're going to do as well. Don't copy mine onto the boxes, right? You're doing this on your graphic organizer, and then you're creating yet another one. And here are the answers. I basically just chose the correct answer, but then I wrote out a sentence of explanation. So see if that makes sense to you. And we'll move on to question 7. Question 7 is hard if you don't remember this special function. We looked at it at one point. It was the function absolute value of x over x. And this function, which is a different function, but this function looks like this. It equals +1 with positive numbers and -1 with negative numbers, and it's undefined at 0 because of the 0 denominator. So if you remembered that, you would know that this function is just a transformation of this function. It's been shifted once to the right. And looking at it that way, it should be pretty obvious that coming from the negative side, the y values equal -1. Now, if that doesn't work for you because you didn't remember the function, you should still be able to do this kind of question using kind of a reasoning strategy. So what does it mean to get close to 1 from the negative side? Well, it means that I'm going to plug in x values that are close to 1 but a little bit smaller, like 0.9. or 0.09 or 0.009. And even without a calculator, you can plug these into this function because it's not a very complicated function. If I plug in 0.9 to the top and the bottom, 0.9 minus 1 is going to be 0.1, and it's going to be -0.1. But when we take the absolute value of that, we end up with positive 0.1 on the top and -0.1 on the bottom, which gives me a value of -1. If I repeat this for 0.09, which I don't have a lot of room for, you should be able to see that plugging 0.09 in for x gives you -0.01 in the absolute value and -0.01 outside the absolute value on the bottom, which again, when this turns positive, gives me an answer of -1. If you try it again for an even smaller number, you're going to keep on getting -1. And think about the table strategy. As the x values get closer to 1, the y values are all around -1. That's why the answer is -1 right there. See if you can use that strategy on this example. Great, so hopefully that worked for you. Here is my reasoning. Make sure that you stop and create one of your own if you got this one wrong originally, and try not to just change the number exactly. See if you can be a little creative. Awesome, so number 8 is the last one in this section, which is the non-calculator multiple choice section. This was just a simple conjugate problem. You can take a look at my math. I think if you made a mistake, it's probably one of two things. I would imagine some people may have forgotten that 9 minus x divided by x minus 9 cancels out to a -1. And that's because here the 9's positive, here it's negative. Here it's positive, here it's positive, here it's negative. So they're opposite expressions. If that was not your mistake, there's one other mistake that I've seen a couple people make, which is some people like magically drop the conjugate on the bottom. They forget that this is still there and they just cancel everything out. So make sure that you watch out for that. Here's the last problem for you to work out, similar to mine. And here are the answers. Great, that concludes this section of the test. The next section of the test I'll put in a separate video because it's getting pretty long here. Keep going, you're doing great work.